So the House passed a bill today at around, it was around 3 p.m. But it's essentially, it would be the fourth stimulus package, I believe. Um, yeah, I'm not sure which number it is, but it is a stimulus bill nonetheless. It is called the HEROES Act. Um, the House Democrats plan to vote this week. Well, they already passed it. Sorry, reading up an old. Anyway, yeah, it's a $3 trillion bill that would provide Americans with another stimulus check of up to $6,000 per family. Basically, it's going to be another $1,200 check for the average adult American. And I believe this one is $1,200 per. Yeah, that's right. It's $1,200 per American essentially. So not the $500 for your kid. Your kid would get 1,200. Um, and it would send about $875 billion to state and local governments to respond to coronavirus pandemic. The HEROES Act contains additional funding for dozens of new programs established to combat the coronavirus pandemic and has money to establish new ones, including $75 billion for mortgage relief for struggling homeowners, $100 billion in assistance for renters, and $3.6 billion to shore up elections. The bill would also increase food stamp benefits by 15% and establish a $200 billion HERO fund. The HERO fund would go to essential workers, basically give them hazard pay, which I think that's a pretty good thing. Um, there is a section of this where a good chunk of money goes to the hospitals and Cobra and the basically Obamacare. And all of that I think is garbage and should just be wiped out. The Heroes Fund I think is great. Sure, it's $200 billion to give a bunch of nurses and doctors hazard pay. Yeah, I mean they deserve it. I don't have a problem with it. The 6.3 billion to shore up elections, I think that's important because and not just for the pandemic, but for a long time the infrastructure in our electoral process has been dilapidated. So if they do it right, that would be a good thing. Maybe we wouldn't have as many problems. 100 billion in assistance for renters and the 75 billion for mortgage relief for homeowners. I don't have a problem with any of those. I think on its base, if this, unfortunately, this might be the best option that we have for a plan moving forward. Uh, I don't like the fact there again we're spending around $3 trillion and there's nothing about a UBI. About 3.2 to 3.1 trillion dollars could get a UBI for 4 months, and I would rather see all of that money go to something like that. Why? Because if you did that UBI, you wouldn't need the 75 billion for mortgage relief, the 100 billion for renters, um, the 15% food stamps, none of that stuff you would need because people would be they would have a solid income that they could rely on. Not to mention, this also extends the unemployment, which I'm having issues with that anymore, to be honest. Um, giving every person who's unemployed an extra $600 per week. Um, I don't really, I don't see why we're doing that. I could see why we were doing that at the beginning, but I'm not exactly sure why we're continuing. Why don't we just guarantee their paycheck what it would have been and then put the UBI on there? So, that one throws me off. Um, there's also, let's see. Oh, yeah, the legislation also does provide about $75 billion for coronavirus testing, which I think that should be more. We need a lot more than that. And of course, in here, it also calls for a deduction in the SALT cap, which is it's a tax that Nancy Pelosi has been going after for a long time, and she might finally get it. Um, we shouldn't do that. We should keep that tax where it is. It only helps millionaires, does not help the average American, and this bill just doesn't go far enough. It really doesn't. Like I said, everything that I mentioned, yeah, there's a few things that could help, but namely, you just throw UBI in here, and most of that could be wrapped up into one package. It would be way easier to pass, way easier to deal with. You don't have as much money circulating through different areas that doesn't need to if you could just do a UBI straight across. Um, and I'll be honest though, it is probably the best one I've seen come out for a while. The one that actually does a little bit more than nothing, and mind you, most of these have been god awful dog turds to only help the elites and the moneyed interests. Um, but it doesn't matter because the Senate says they're not going to pass it. Lindsey Graham said that it will be dead on arrival. Mitch McConnell said, I'm in no hurry to pass this. Not going to happen. And I mean, I think you don't have to go any farther than to figure out why they are good where they're at. And it's because they're already taken care of. All their people, all their friends, their millionaire friends, their lobbyists, their supporters, quote unquote, um, they got their bailouts. They're all going to be fine. And, so many of them, like Mitch McConnell being one, who's one of his biggest supporters, donators, if you will. It's real estate companies. Real estate companies love them some Mitch McConnell. What do real estate companies really want right now? They want to buy people out on the cheap. So then they can turn around and sell these houses for a lot of money. Looks pretty easy when the average American is getting kicked out of their home because they can't pay rent. Or they can't pay their mortgage, more likely. Or businesses. That's prime real estate. They got to close down and they can't be in that building anymore. Real estate companies, they come in and they kill on these kind of things. So, I mean, and that's just one aspect of it. Mitch McConnell was also supported by the big tobacco industry. They're one of his biggest donors. Why is that important in this? Well, because they want a lot of farm space. Well, all these small farmers who can't afford to pay their bills right now, they're going to have to sell it to someone. It's going to be big tobacco. They're going to get it on the cheap, and they're going to be able to make cigarettes to kill them. All this can be backtracked. And the point is none of them give a goddamn shit about us. And this bill that throws crumbs at us is the best thing I've seen in a while, and it's really sad. Anyway, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on it. Just comment below, and I appreciate you. You guys have a good evening.